Yeah, thanks to everybody who read. Again, I'm an addict and my name's Adam. Tonight, hey, I love you too very much. Tonight, I get the honor of introducing Herman. Now, Herman and I had run into each other, a few years back. He's seen me at a few meetings, but I found out tonight, not only does Herman have a lot of recovery, but he played baseball, like professional baseball. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about baseball, right? But if you're a hitter, you usually fail. I mean, if you're a good hitter, like 70% of the time, you fail, right? Without further ado, let's give Herman a round of applause.
Take your phone. Oh, okay. Let's leave it. Hello, family. My name is Herman. I'm an addict. And yeah, I do know Adam from quite a few meetings, and Joe back there. He's from Long Island. I'm from Brooklyn, but I didn't meet him till I moved down here 10 years ago. I like to just kind of cover, how powerless I was. First of all, I'm 62 years old. I'll be 63 in July. So it'll make sense how I share to y'all. When I was 22, that's when I found out about recovery. Nice to be named A-O. Herman, Herman. Okay. And no cross talking. What we're going to do, I was 22 when I first discovered Narcotics Anonymous. I messed up a good baseball career. So I found out when I was in high school, I was going to be drafted to Chicago, Cincinnati, and I messed that up, smoking weed in my junior year of high school, 10th grade. So I figured since I was messing up everything, smoking weed and carrying on at about 16, 15, 16, I said, well, now that I ain't going to do that, I'm going to try to go into the military. So at the time I went down in Manhattan, 26 Federal Plaza, the Jacob Javits building. It's right there near the Twin Towers that fell. And I went in the recruiting office and he said, man, you kind of thick. And I said, yeah, well, whatever. And he said, get down to about 201 and we'll take you. But you got to pass the Naval Battery Aptitude Test, which in civilian world it's like a test for your, how smart you are. So I got down the weight. I went back in and I took the test and wound up scoring like 132, my IQ. And he told me I had to score higher than a high school graduate, was only 112 at the time. So I had a 10th grade education. I qualified for the Coast Guard and I went in. And I excelled chasing medals and everything in there, steadily smoking weed, staying out of trouble, chasing medals. But then about the 3 years in, I only did 4. The third year in, I got in trouble with the drugs. And now, mind you, I grew up in a big family of 5, and I was the baby. So we all sat around and got high together. So that was kind of like the thing we did, with the heavy stuff, and I mean, I'm not going to name all of it. It's just, believe me, it was the heavy stuff, dope, crack, whatever. That's all I'm going to hear about that. But as we were getting high, I realized that me being in my last year in the military, I was taking on this addiction. And at the time, the commander-in-chief was Ronald Reagan. And George Bush Sr. was the vice president, and they started the urinalysis tests. So I would take the Golden Seal and run in place and drink all the water I can. But I was excelling so much in the military, in the Coast Guard, they told me, Herman, there's traces of cocaine or whatever in your system. You could drink all you wanted. And that made it even worse. So they had a program for alcohol, but they didn't have it for drugs. If you did drugs, they were kicking you out. And I was at the point where I was stationed in New York, Governor's Island. Because remember I told you about that IQ test? So the command that I was under in Wildwood, New Jersey, they said for the 70 people in the command, we're going to give the first 25 a billet wherever they want to go. So naturally, I scored under that 25, knowing what I was doing. And I wound up being stationed in Manhattan. So I would be able to go home every day when I was off the ship. And that's how I got high. That's what I was doing. I was taking my Coast Guard money in my last year in there and using with my siblings. And remember, I told you I was the baby in the family. So I had the apartment, I had all of that. And somewhere or another, it was time for me to own up to my problems and situations because I had messed up the money I was married. I just had a daughter and she was complaining I was spending all the money using and she was leaving me. So she came down to the command post, told my commander that, Herman's, doing all what he's doing. And he cut my check right there for my spousal pay would go directly to her and I would get the rest. And at that time, I was trying to get out with that honorable discharge. So now that my commander know I didn't have an alcohol problem, I had a real drug problem, he worked out some way I could get my honorable discharge. But I had to promise them I would re-enlist and become a drill sergeant back at Wildwood, New Jersey, put on the smoky hat, wake up 5:30 in the morning. And I lied. I told him I'd do it. But I got my honorable discharge. I got the hell out of there. But I was smart enough to go to the 28-day rehab, Fort Hamilton Army Base. And I had nowhere to leave my car because, parking, they tow it in New York. So I left it on the base and I got out 28 days. I'm all cleaned up and I'm 22 years old. I'm telling my commander, I'm clean now. I'm cured. And he was like, all right, great. There's your car over there. And it was under a big pile of leaves. He said, that's the only way we kept them from towing it. All the leaves that fell, they covered my car with. So I was able to clean them all. And it was a Chevy Impala. I never forget. I went in and turned the key and that shit started right up. I couldn't believe it. But the crazy part was I drove off base. I parked it in front of the house. My sister came running out saying, yo, they're towing your car. I went outside and they chalked everything and took the plates off it. So I was back to square one anyway with that car. And for 6 months, I started making meetings. Now, 22, I'm making meetings now because, I realized I wasn't cured. I had to make meetings. So I had got so cleaned up, new sneakers. My dad and mom, God bless them, they stayed together 58 years. He would let me go through his closet. He had lizards, alligators, gabardines, silk shirts, whatever. So I'm the flyest kid at the meeting at the time. And my sister and brother, they said, well, I want to go to meetings with you. And they started making meetings with me. So in the 6 months of making meetings, I picked up. They kept going. They stayed clean. So for the next 2.5 years, now I'm turning about 25, I said, yo, I need some help. And my brother and sister, they were still making meetings. So I wound up getting back into the rooms. And they said they prayed me back in. Narcotics Anonymous. They prayed me back in. And I never looked back since. That's why I'm here to tell y'all with the 35 years and 22 days, how this journey took me, So I make meetings, I got the sponsor, I got, sponsor here and there, take care of them and we do what we have to do. But knowing that my brother and sister stayed in the rooms for those 2 years, I didn't have to ask myself if this program worked because they was just as nutty and crazy as I was. But no matter what, they didn't use, And that's basically how much time I got.
Oh, it's free time.
That's basically how it started. Now, after I got myself making meetings in New York, I was on a great job, building superintendent, because while I was in the Coast Guard, I learned about turbine engines and this and that. And I came out, my dad, I told you, he was a building superintendent for a lot of rabbis, and they owned half of the New York. So what we used to do was get all the painting contracts and plumbing and all of that. And I was able to get me a super job. And I stayed there for 24 years before I moved down here. And bought me a house, nice ride, everything. I have one daughter. She could get whatever she want. Actually, she came to live with me when I cleaned myself up, because she used to call me, say, Daddy, mommy and grandma is fighting over the child support. And I'm like, well, what you think we should do? She said, well, that room in the back, you fix it up for me and I'll come live with you next time we go to court, because you pulled up with that new F-150 and mommy said you making a lot of money and we going back to court for the cost of living. And I'm saying, what? Why did I pull up? But, that's the mistake I made, blinging and showing off. So after we went to court, she told the judge, yeah, I want to leave with my daddy. So I wound up raising her from 11 to about 18. She wound up going to Georgia State, and she got her degree. And every so often she'll come down here. Christmas, I was down there in New York with her. And that's just some of the benefits, the friends and the family. I can't tell you all enough about this program. It works. I mean, for my brother and sister, for them, thank God for them. Because, see, I don't have to question this program. All I have to do a day at a time is don't use. You know what I'm saying? They used to say, like, whoever wake up the earliest got the most clean time. I'm good with that. Because I'm with the no matter what club. I'm not using, you see? And there's a lot of things that I lost that I wish I would have been clean to get. But, yesterday is history. Tomorrow's a mystery, and we have to live for today. That's all I could say. Thank you for letting me share.
All right.